Hey everybody, it's Joric. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a fantastic day. If you are new, thank you for finding me. Please subscribe. I like to talk about Portugal and Europe travel news. If you're returning and like my content, please hit the like button and share it with others who might have a similar interest in Portugal or Europe. Today I'm going to talk about three areas or three potential gaps in creating a budget for living in Portugal. And I want to first start off by saying I apologize because I've done cost of living videos every year that I've been here, and I've talked about several aspects of what it's like to create a budget, some tax implications. And I didn't put these three things in, and these could be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars that you have to budget on an annual basis and then break it out per month. And it could very well change whether you're moving here or not. So let's get into the one that could be a deal breaker, and that's taxes. In fact, I'll say taxes along with the price of real estate or the cost of rents in Portugal might be two of the biggest deal breakers that make you scratch your head and rethink Portugal. But I have not included taxes in any of the cost of living budgets that I've thrown out there. And that's a big miss and a big gap, because if you can think about it, you have to file taxes here, and let's say for those of you that are Americans watching this, you know that Uncle Sam wants to tax all domestic and foreign income. You're filing your taxes back in the US as well. That it's not always going to be you have to pay taxes as far as when the deadline is. You may end up getting a refund, so that's positive and in your favor. But you could owe hundreds or thousands in Portugal and your home country, wherever that is, depending on what you have going on in your tax situation. So it is imperative that you talk to probably a couple of accountants before you move and when you get here. I will say that as much as I harp on this and say you need to research and research and research, the reason I say it is, quite honestly, you need to go through one tax cycle to truly understand what you're owing or getting back in Portugal, as well as in your home country. In my case, the United States. Part of the reason I missed it and forgot to put it in my cost of living budget is in Portugal, we've been fortunate that based upon what we paid in throughout the year, we've gotten a refund. So it just slipped my mind. But this is huge because there are people that have paid thousands in Portugal, and they've also paid thousands in our example to the United States as well. And they didn't anticipate that when they were moving. They thought they were going to get a better deal and not have to pay as much. And so that's kind of thrown a monkey wrench into their long-term stay in Portugal, because if things continue the same, they didn't anticipate several $1,000s being spent in Portugal to pay taxes. So it is something you have to consider. But like I said, you kind of have to go through it. You have to make the commitment to move here, go through the process for a year to get truly a better understanding of how the tax situation falls out in your particular case. So that's the first one. The second one, tax preparation. Now, in Portugal, this last year, we did our own taxes, and I'm going to have an upcoming video for you where I think you could do your own taxes in Portugal as well. It's not as complicated as we thought. So I'm going to show that video, but here we don't have any tax prep cost. But in the United States every year, I will say it's several $100s to do the tax return in the United States. So that's something I also did not include in a cost of living budget. And you need to if you're going to be moving here, because ultimately, unless you have a history with doing taxes, you're an accountant, or you're comfortable doing taxes in both Portugal and your home country, you may be farming that out to someone. And in Portugal, I've seen as little as $50, as much as several $100s to do taxes. Of course, it probably depends on how simple or complicated your situation is from your home country and Portugal. And then in the US, it could be a few $100s up to a few thousand, depending on, again, how complicated, what's all involved. So again, that could be a big deal when it comes to breaking out a monthly budget and creating kind of an annual budget for living here. And then lastly, and something that just again, could be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars that just slipped my mind creating this stuff, the cost of living videos, is bank transfer fees. Depending on what you use, whether it be you're transferring $50, $5,000, $50,000, euros, pounds, dirhams, whatever that is, you're going to have certain banks that you're going to work with. You're either going to transfer from home to foreign country bank and vice versa and not use other third parties. You might have online banks like a TransferWise, which is now called Wise. You might use PayPal to do that. You might use other means. There's a company that we use called XE, and part of that is because the fees for transferring are a little bit lower and more competitive than other places that we've looked at for the amount of money that we're transferring. But most likely, I would say with 90% certainty, people living in Portugal are going to transfer money in and out of the country to and from, let's say, your former or home country. And there's going to be a cost to that. And depending on how much, how often, and depending on what bank instrument or bank transfer company you're using, it could be hundreds of dollars a year, which in the greater scheme of things isn't that much, but still something, to a few $1,000s a year, maybe more if you're transferring huge sums of money that you have to factor in and add into your budget that doesn't necessarily show up. You know, people want to see rents and what the cost of groceries are and some of that. But this is one of those that I think is important, because as much as it may not be a huge impact to your monthly budget, it is an impact, and it is something that you have to sharpen your pencil when you're determining moving money, and that may change your philosophy. This isn't, I don't think, a deal breaker on whether you move to Portugal or not, but this is certainly something that you have to consider and really think about. How often do you want to move money? And how much are you moving? Because that all plays into the transfer rate. And when I say that, I want to clarify, I'm not saying the exchange rate between your home currency and, in Portugal, the euro. I'm speaking specifically the cost of transferring the money, the transfer fee. There's something somewhere along the way that you're going to be charged, especially if it's a higher amount. And it's something that you have to keep in mind when you're living here. So taxes, major issue, but like I said, you kind of have to live through a cycle to get a feel for things, quite honestly. The tax preparation fees, if you know how to do stuff yourself, more the merrier, and more power to you. And then lastly, the bank transfer fees. Those are three areas that I did not put in my cost of living videos, and I think can be major gaps when you're creating your budget. And you want to make sure that you have a more succinct budget when you're coming in with less potential thousands of dollars that are question marks to you out there. So thank you for watching the video. I hope this helps you as you're creating a budget for Portugal. And as always, enjoy your travels.